this year, everybody's getting rich. Okay? Hello and welcome! Happy New Year and welcome to 2026. If this is your first time here, my name is Funta, and on this channel I talk about money, mindset, self-care, travel, lifestyle, all the good things. So if you're into any of that, welcome, and I hope you enjoyed the ride with me. Don't forget to subscribe. Okay? Today's video we will be talking about money. Listen, I like money, okay? And not just for the sake of having it, but because I think money is power. Money gives you power over your life. It gives you complete control and autonomy over your life. The more money you have, the more power you would have over your life. That's why I think it's very important. And so I spent a good time thinking about money. I spent a good time learning about it. I spent a good time implementing and practicing the things that I learned about it. And so over the years, I have become very, very meticulous in the planning and the spending of my money. And so I know a thing or two, okay, about planning and having a good financial year. So much that people think I have so much money. People tend to think I'm rich. I'm not sure why. Even when I was broke, people thought I was rich. And I keep praying to God, God, this money that people think I have, please give it to me. But also we thank God that we don't look like what we're going through. But anyway, I digress. So like I said, today we're going to be talking about money, and I just kind of want to share with you how I plan my financial year. I will walk you through how I make my budget. I have a budget template or a spending tracker. So I will walk you through how I use that to plan my year, but also the mindset behind how I make the plans that I make. And hopefully you can learn one or two things from here. Like I said, I've been doing this for a few years, so I do know a thing or two, okay? So without further ado, let's get into the video. Actually, before we get into the video, one or two disclaimers. One, all the numbers I will be sharing on here are hypothetical numbers. I'm too Nigerian to share everything. You know, when people make those videos about like my whole paycheck, I love watching videos like that. But the Nigerian in me would never let me do that. That's one. And the second thing I wanted to mention is that for you to be able to have a plan or make a plan of your money, you have to be aware. So you have to know what money is coming in. You have to know what is going out. There's no way you're going to be able to make a smart plan if you are not aware of your finances. Like when it comes to money, ignorance is not bliss. You do have to know. And I think that one way that you should know, or probably the only way that you can know, is by using a budget. I know. Don't shoot me. I know people don't like to hear the word budget because I feel for a lot of people it sounds like something that limits you financially. When you think about a budget, you're thinking about something where you have to restrict your spending and be so strict on yourself. You can do this, you can do this, you can do that. No. A budget basically gives you information about how much you're making, how much is coming into your account or whatever every so often, and how much is going out. It's basically just knowing what you're doing, because there is no plan if you don't know. You can't make a successful plan if you don't know what's coming in and what's going out. Okay, so now that we've touched on those two things, let's get into the actual nitty-gritty of the video. So I'm going to divide this video into three I want to say categories. So when I'm making a plan, there are three things I focus on. One is my spending, two is my savings, and three is investments. Like I said, before I can make a plan, I kind of have to know how much I'm making, how much I'm spending, and things like that. I made a quick summarized video of my 2025 financial review. That video is on TikTok. I'll put a clip. Even my rent is more than my investments. I don't like that. That means I have to make more money. That's the only way. Right here. But basically, I have done a review of my spending in 2025. So I know exactly where my money went. I know the things I want to be more mindful of moving forward. And this is why, like I mentioned, you have to know what's going on for you to be able to make a plan that would work for you. So here is my budget template. This is what it looks like. As you can see, it's very detailed because, I don't know, like I said, I'm very meticulous about things, and I don't know, this just makes me happy. So it has the annual dashboard, and I came here and I looked at a total of everything that I spent, even the categories too. Those were here. You can see the major categories as well as my spending categories over here, and it also has charts. So it has the numbers as well as charts, so I can have a proper overview. Actually, let me show you an example of what it would look like once I put numbers in. So here is where I put in the income. Let's say in 2025 I made $200,000. 200, actually let's make that bigger. Let's make it $500,000, because why not? You don't think small, you have to think big. Oh, that's 50k. No, 500, my friend. Perfect. So you can see that as I've updated that, my total income has automatically been updated here. Also, it's let me know how much I have left to budget and how much I have left to spend. And then the total amount will come here on the annual dashboard. It's coming on here because there's usually a carryover every month, and so it's adding all of that up. That's why this looks like that. But so I like to do the planning month by month because it's easier when things are spread over every month. And in my budget planner, I have a sheet in the planner for each month, as you can see down here. So here we have already put in the income that we will be making, 500,000 per, and now we're going to have to, now I'm going to start doing the breakdown. So I like to break down my planning into 3 categories: spending, savings, and investment. So we'll start with spending. Again, I knew exactly how much I spent last year, and based on that I will make a budget like for the amounts that I want to spend. So my spending has fixed expenses, flexible expenses, savings, debt, investments, right? And there's a column here for how much I think I'm going to spend every month versus how much I'm actually going to spend every month. So what I think I'm going to spend every month, I'm going to do that based on what I did last year. So the amounts that I put in last year, did they work for me? And if they worked for me, do I want to increase them? Do I want to reduce them? Things like that. So my fixed expenses, you can see rent, groceries, mortgage, blah, 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 all of that stuff. Things that I don't like to pay for because I don't, but I digress. All right, so my rents. Ideally, I would like to pay $0 for rent, but let's assume that I'm paying $1,000 for rent, okay? That's how much my budget is. And we'll just put in random numbers for the rest of the categories here. Okay, so now I'll do the same for my flexible expenses. And flexible expenses are just like random things like personal care items, skincare, makeup, you know, all those things. And then household items, miscellaneous things, takeout, fun, giving gifts, blah, 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 things like that. So I'll do the same thing for the flexible expenses. Again, based on how I spent in 2025, I know a reasonable amount to put in these categories. Let's put random numbers in there. So that's basically how I plan my spending. I feel like that's pretty straightforward. I hope it is. But the gist of it is that if you know how much you've been spending before and you've kind of looked it over, you're able to plan better on how much is reasonable for you to spend, how much you want to spend in all the different categories of your expenses. Now to number 2, which is savings. So obviously your savings are very personal to you. What will determine what you want to save for is based on your priorities, what goals you personally have, and you know what's important to you. So for me, for example, this year there are 3 things I want to focus on saving. One is an emergency fund. I want to have a 2-year emergency fund. If you don't know what an emergency fund is, by the way, it's just basically knowing what your expenses are and then having that saved up for a period of time. So for example, if your monthly expenses are $1,000, if you want a 3-month emergency fund, then that would be $3,000. If you want a 1-year emergency fund, then that would be $12,000. Based on what I want to do, let's say I want to contribute $10,000 to my emergency fund this year. I would divide $10,000 by 12. That is, do I know math? Jesus Christ. Okay, so that would be $833.33 every month. That's how much I would have to save monthly if I wanted to $10,000 emergency fund. So for my savings, I want to do $10,000. In that budgeted column, I'm going to put in $10,000 divided by 12. So every month I have to save that amount. Another thing that I really like to save for are sinking funds. And if you don't know what sinking funds are, basically it's saving for something that's important to you. So for example, I like to treat myself for my birthday every year. And so I usually have a sinking fund for my birthday every year. My birthday is in November, and I will start saving for my birthday a year before. So for November 2026, I started saving for my birthday in December 2025. So I kind of already started it, but I will add that to my budget right now. Let's say, again, for example, I wanted to save $1,000 for my birthday in 2026. Right? My birthday is in November, so I have 11 months to save $1,000. So I will be doing $1,000 divided by the 11 months that I have to save for that. So $1,000 divided by 11. So that means every month for me to get $1,000, I have to save $90.91, right? Now, you can have a sinking fund for pretty much anything. Let me give you an example of other sinking funds I have. I have a sinking fund for travel because I do like to travel, so I like to plan ahead of that. The reason why I think it's important to have a sinking fund is because when you realize the things that make you happy, things that are needs and not wants, but they do make you happy, they just make life feel like life is better, okay? I think it's important to plan for those things. I want to be able to say, okay, I want to go out and I don't want to feel guilty after going out and spending money. I want to travel and I don't want to feel guilty for traveling because I overspent or I spent money that I didn't budget for. And so the best way to do that is to plan for that. I even have sinking funds for the summer. When summer comes and I'm hearing, do you want to go? Yes. Do you want to go? Yeah, invite me, please. Invite me. Right? And I want to be able to go to those things and not feel guilty for spending all the money that I spent at those things. Okay, so now I would figure out how much I want to save for each category of each sinking fund that I want to have, and then I would do the math here, add everything up together so that I know that add everything up together and divide by 12 so that I know that every month this is how much needs to be put into that fund. Now there's nothing else that I'm really saving for this year, but if you were saving for something like a car, a house, or anything else, you would just do the math. If you need, for example, to get a car by June, you have January to June to get a car. How much do you want to spend on that car? Let's assume $5,000. I only wish you could get a car for $5,000. Anyways, let's assume $5,000. So you have 6 months, January to June, to save up $5,000. 5,000 divided by 6. Oh, again, $833. So if you wanted to save $5,000 by June, you would know that you needed to save $833.33 every month. So that's how you would determine how much you want to save monthly. Get the total of how much you want to save divided by how much time you need to save. And one thing I want to add with the savings is to automate all your savings. So once you figure out how much you want to be putting monthly into each of these savings accounts, set up a system that would do that for you. I live in Canada, and maybe not most banks, but the banks that I use, they have the options to set up a transfer and then have that transfer be repeated for a period of time. That's how I automate my savings. So for example, I use mostly EQ banks for my sinking funds, and it has the main checking account, and then you can create subcategories of a checking account. So my subcategories in my account are all the sinking funds that I want, like travel and summer and gifts and personal care and things like that. And so every month I have set it so that money would go directly from my main checkings account to each of those accounts. It's basically like setting up a normal transfer, like if you want to transfer money from one account to another. The only difference is there will be an option for you to select if you want this to be a recurring transfer, and then you can select also how long you want the transfer to reoccur for. I think it's very important to do this because one, it makes things very easy. It makes things much more easier for you. You don't really have to think about it every month. It's just done. And also two, instead of spending and then saving what is left from what you spend, you get to save and then spend what is left after you have saved. I strongly believe that that's one good way to stick to your goals, because if you do this, if you spend first and then save what's left, there's always something to spend money on. There is always something to spend money on. So make those savings automatic so you don't have to worry about them, and then spend whatever is left after all the savings have been taken care of. You can even set those transfers to happen on payday. If you get paid periodically and you know the days that you're going to get paid, that's perfect. Maybe let's say you get paid on the 1st of the month. On the 1st of every month, set those things to set all the transfer to happen automatically, so that when you wake up and you open your checkings account to see how much you have, all the savings are gone. So what you're seeing is quite literally what you have left to spend. So automate your savings. It would make your life much more easier when it comes to kind of sticking to your savings plan. Now, the third portion of my savings plan is investments. Let me not even lie to you. I do the basics when it comes to investment, and the basics for me are ETFs. There are two ways to decide how much, or to plan how much you want to invest. One way is to have a certain portion of your income go to investment. If you decide that you want to save 10% of your income, then you would just very simply do the math. If you make $1,000, 10% of $1,000 is $100. I know that one. 10%. Wait, is it actually $100? Let me make sure. Yeah, correct. It's $100. So you would know that you're going to allocate $100 every month to spending. So that's one way to decide or to plan how much you want to invest. Another way to plan how much you invest, which I kind of do, is depending on the investment vehicles that you use. So in Canada, we have some accounts that have some special benefits that you can use as investment vehicles. Those are TFSA, which is a tax-free savings account. We also have the RSP, which is a retirement account. And then we have the FHSA, which is a home savings account. So these are all accounts that they have like tax benefits, things like that, but you can also use them as investment vehicles. They have contribution limits, so every year there is a limit to how much you can contribute into these accounts. For example, the FHSA, the contribution limit is $8,000, and so last year, an example is that my investment plan was to max out my contribution room in my FHSA account. At least, I could do other investment in my other accounts, but my FHSA account had to be maxed out. That was my goal. You can decide you want to do half of that. You can decide you want to do a percentage of that. You can decide you want to do $1,000 in this account, $1,000 in another, $1,000 in another. It's completely up to you, depending again on what your priorities are. If you want me to make a video about the investment vehicles that we have in Canada, let me know. I worked in the financial industry for a bit, so I do know a thing or two about those things. So I can make a video explaining or breaking down each of those accounts for you. Just let me know in the comments. So that's how I decide how much I want to invest. Let's assume I want to max out my FHSA this year. It's $8,000 divided by 12. So I am going to put in my budgeted column, I'm going to put $8,000 divided by 12. So every month I have to contribute $666.67 into my FHSA account for me to be able to meet my goal. So now I have set up everything. I have set up my main expenses, like my day-to-day expenses. I've set up my savings. I've set up my investments. It's pretty straightforward once you get a hang of it, and especially once you know how much you're making and how much you have the capacity to put aside for different things. It's pretty easy to know. So now every month I will track exactly how much I'm spending. Let me show you an example of how I do the tracking. So if I go out today, for example, and I purchase, I don't know, a purse, I will put in the date. Actually, let's just do rent. It's the first. I woke up this morning, they're already taking rent from my account. So they don't even waste time. Anyways, 1st of December, I'm gonna type in rent, and then the category would be rent. And let's say I pay $1,000 for rent. You can see that the actual column is automatically updated with $1,000. So this is how I track my spending. I just put the amounts in here, like in this little table, and then it automates everything else for me. And so that's what I would do every month, or everything I spend basically goes in here. Again, I'm very extra with this, but I feel like it's important to be that extra with things if you're really trying to be on top of things. I don't know any other way. If you know any other way, actually let me know in the comments. But this has been working for me for years. So yes, the dashboard is updated. Even now, the annual dashboard is somewhat updated. You can see that the charts are adding up. There's a little thing here. Let me add something else in a different category so that we can see. Let's say we want to add, let's say savings, right? Let's add $10,000 to savings. You see? And that's updated. And then if I check the annual dashboard, it's broken down for me as well in all the different charts. This is why, but like doing my planning, money planning is kind of exciting for me. I don't know, this is kind of fun to me. I don't know if it's nerdy, but it's fun to me, so that's how I do it. And again, with the investments, I will suggest that they are automated as well. Like for example, I know that I need to send in, how much do I do for investments again? $666. So I use Wealthsimple. In Canada, if you're in a different country or a different region, I assume that they would have different apps or softwares and things like that for investing. I use Wealthsimple. It's very simple. If I can understand Wealthsimple and how to use it, you can understand it. You don't really need to do much with Wealthsimple. In terms of picking the stocks and the ETFs that I invest in, there are two ways that I do it. One, sometimes here and there, if I hear about one stock and I'm able to look into it and learn about it, I will add it to my portfolio. But one way that I was able to really build my portfolio was I set up a robot investing thing with Wealthsimple. So Wealthsimple has, they give you the option for them to invest for you. Right, so you answer a few questions, they know your risk level, your risk tolerance, your goals, where you're saving for, things like that, and based on the answers to those questions, they would develop a portfolio for you, and they would add different stocks to that portfolio for you. And so I set up one of those, and I had it for like a year. And then when I wanted to open a separate investment account, I basically just looked at what they were investing for me, and I replicated it, because what they put in for me, it was working. I liked the numbers, I liked the profit that I was making, so I just replicated that in a different account. The only difference between having them do that for you and you doing it for yourself is that you do have to pay like a little charge. It's not that much. I think it's less than 1%. So I do think that's like a beneficial way to kind of figure out what types of stocks or index funds that you should invest in if you're completely new to this and you don't know where to begin. You can do something like that. I think Questrade also has something similar. I'm not sure, I've never used Questrade, but Wealthsimple, those people, they don't give me trouble, they don't give me wahala. So, and I've been using them for maybe 5 years now, so 5-6 years now, something like that, and I have not had one issue with them ever since I started using them. Okay, so those are the basics. Those are that's basically how I set up my financial goal. At the end of every month, I would look at my spending and I would see where most of my money went, and then I most of the time replicate those things month by month, but also month by month some things might change. Like for example, there might be a certain month where I need to stock up on skincare products, so obviously I will be spending more in that month for skincare products, so I'd be able to budget accordingly in those months. That's why I think it's better to do it month by month. Obviously yours doesn't have to be the exact same way and the exact same method, but I'm just sharing this to kind of give you an idea if you're thinking about starting to take your finances seriously. Your financial goals will be very dependent on your own circumstances, your own expenses, your personal goals, your income, and things like that. And lastly, before I leave, the last thing I want to mention is if this type of thing is overwhelming for you, if you really have never done this before and things like this are overwhelming for you, I completely understand, because I think there is a psychology to money as well, and it's not always straightforward for everyone depending on where you're coming from and what your experiences are. But if you do feel really overwhelmed and you don't know where to start, I will suggest that you just start by knowing where your money is going. You don't have to have a fancy template, you don't have to, you know, have a big fancy plan and write so many things. I think that's just going to overwhelm you. I think what you should do is, for a week, start with 1 week. For 1 week, track how much you make and track how much you spend, and then do it for the next week, and then for the next week, and for the next week. The more you do that, the more comfortable you get with things. Sometimes it's just the fear. Sometimes there's a fear you don't even want to deal with it because it's too scary. Also, dealing with and just facing your spending habits, sometimes it's just something you don't want to deal with, especially if you know that there's work for you to do. Sometimes you just don't want to do that. But I would say, like I said in the beginning of this video, if you are on top of your finances, if you have control over your finances, it's one big way to have control over your life. And so I think it's very, very crucial. I don't think it's something you should push to the side. I don't think it's something you should run away from. It might be scary or daunting in the beginning, but trust me, it is worth it to figure this out and take it seriously. And once you take it seriously and you start getting into it, it becomes fun. I promise. Like, I can sit down with my template and just play around with it. It's just fun. I really like doing things like this, and I wasn't always like that. It's just doing this over time, you really get used to it and it becomes something that you enjoy. So that would be all for this video. I hope you were able to learn a thing or two from here. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. If you have any comments, if you have any suggestions, even for me, like if there's a way that I'm doing this and you have an easier way to do it, please let me know. I always like finding easier ways to achieve the same quality of results. So please let me know in the comments, share your thoughts and share your questions and share your concerns, everything like that. And thank you very much for watching. If you have watched up to this point, obviously you like what's going on here, so subscribe. I'm begging you, actually, please subscribe to my channel and share this video with somebody that you think will find it useful, will find it helpful. Have a great, wonderful, fantastic, successful new year. This year everybody's getting rich, okay? All right, have a great new year and see you in my next video.